I'm here to just MC tonight, make sure it all goes smoothly. I do come to this with a personal perspective, being a counsellor myself, and I can tell you now that you almost marry the job, don't you? Every day something involves council. I've just got back from a brothel workshop in Sydney. I mean, that technically wasn't for council, but anyway, so you'll be lucky enough, hopefully with this, we'll see that we'll have more than one Green on Newcastle Council. I think that's really important. John Sutton, the mayoral candidate.
And let me begin by acknowledging that I am speaking on the land of the traditional custodians, the Awabakal and Warramai people, and pay respects to their elders past, present and future, and to recognise their enduring culture and their ongoing relationship with this land, which is, was and always will be Aboriginal land. And I shudder to think that our city is going to have to endure 4 more years of a council like we've had now for the last 4 years. It's been, I think, the worst council that I've ever known in Newcastle. We go into this election with a real challenge, an electoral challenge in front of us. It's the first time since 1995 that we've only gone in with one incumbent councillor. So it's a big ask for us. We're hoping to win 4 seats on this council. And that's going to be a very important part of changing the nature of the city. How you know the details. Most of you are looking around, have been very involved in civic affairs. You know the details of how bad this council is. When it was first elected, it immediately scrapped it set up a thing called the sustainability review, didn't it? Which to a Green might on the surface sound like a wonderful thing, but of course it was actually sustainability about finances. And this has been that kind of council. It's been a bean counting kind of council. Sustainability they only know in those kind of small-minded terms. It's been a council that, as Greens we like to think globally and act locally, and their kind of version of that is to this small-minded, mean-spirited, petty parochialism, which is the worst of localism. Whereas as Greens we believe in the best of localism, paying to do it. But we've got other big citywide challenges all over the place, haven't we? Challenges that go either right around Newcastle or way beyond the precincts of even our city and into the region. We're dealing at the moment with a proposal to almost double the capacity of what is already the world's largest coal exporting port. Huge challenge for us. An absolute shame in terms of the attitude of the main parties about it, who are simply embedded in the trajectory of coal. And it's only the Greens who are saying we have to go in another direction. And here in Newcastle, where we live, in the world's largest coal exporting city, we've got a really important message to sell there. And I think this team is a team that is really set to change Newcastle. It needs it. Newcastle needs us. And I think we just need to get that message out there. I think the community is ready to make that kind of change. This really does need to be an election where we change the course of the city. It's absolutely crucial to do it, and I think we've got the team to do it. So I'm going to introduce next Therese. I think you're next, Therese. So I think I've pretty much done my introduction for you. So ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to welcome Therese, who is our candidate for Ward 2. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I thought I'd start by talking about why the Greens and why it's important that we have Greens on council. Because when you look at the world of politics today, I think, for me anyway, that the Greens in Australia, the Greens that you've seen before you just this evening speaking, all the Greens that represent us are an antidote to despair as far as politics is concerned. The Greens represent a humanistic approach. The Greens represent a rationality. The Greens approach is to have a regard for nature that is not exploitative, but that seeks to use nature in a way that returns it to a state that we can pass on to future generations. The Green attitude, the Green political program, I suppose, represents something that's a complete break from the pragmatic and the cynical approach that we see from the other political parties. And I think that might sound rather idealistic, but I think it's fundamental. We're there because we represent the 4 principles of the Greens. We're there because we believe in development that's going to take our city forward, but that's also going to have regard for what the community wants, what the community needs, and what is truly sustainable. Not just economically sustainable, but that's environmentally sustainable. I'm going to be the candidate for Ward 2, and we've divided among us a bit of a division of labour of what we're going to stand for. And because I'm Ward 2 and it covers a lot of coastline, I'm partly going to be talking about Newcastle's coastal development. Given the current political climate, I reckon the Greens are the place to be. I would like to introduce the candidate for Ward 3 for the Greens, and that's Keith Parsons.
I'd also like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of the Warramai and Awabakal people and pay respect to their elders past and present. And I'd also like to acknowledge Fee Mosley. I wouldn't be here tonight as a candidate if Fee, who would have been an excellent candidate, hadn't decided for very good reasons to pull out. And I must say, I think she'd make an excellent Lord Mayoral candidate in 2016. In Ward 3, I've been there for 4.5 years as a ward councillor. I've got a pretty good idea about some of the main issues in that area. In some ways, it's a much quieter ward than, say, Ward 1, where I live, where you've got all sorts of controversies going on all the time. But flooding's definitely an issue for Ward 3, as it is in other wards. Overdevelopment, people, I know even in the last 4 years, people complaining to me about the character of their residential areas being destroyed by speculative overdevelopment. Parks and the lack of service level that some parks get in the ward compared to say inner city parks. Student welfare, we've got lots of students that live in that ward, some in substandard housing, illegal housing. You've got issues of people being threatened by that live in that area, particularly overseas students. And of course, poor public transport is another issue relative to other areas in the city. When I was on the council, both terms, I had some particular interests or even passions. For instance, cultural issues, the art gallery, the library, the museum, public art, that sort of thing. I had a particular passion for planning and urban design, and part of the problem with this current council, is that in terms of development applications, they'll approve anything. I'd have to agree with John that having watched councils back in the 70s to now, even the McNaughton Council, dated 1986 to 1995, wasn't as bad as this one. Simply dreadful in terms of not understanding or not caring about community consultation, about accountability, openness. Those things just don't seem to be on their radar screen. And of course, they seem to be advised by, as I said earlier, by senior managers who don't understand either or don't care. One of my passions, if you like, is to re-establish genuine community committees in the next council. In the space of 4 years, they've just almost dismembered the community committee system. They've got about half a dozen now committees, replacing what were probably 40 or 50 in the past. Imagine the difference that would be with four councillors from the Greens back again in 2012. We have done it before, in 2004, 2008. We had 3 in 1995 to 99. We can do it again. And I'm certainly looking forward to being part of that. Thanks again, and I look forward to being a candidate, and I look forward to having 4 of us back there in September to really change the way that council operates and actually get back things like community forums and change the community committee structure, and to make sure that when memos go out from council to the community, they say the truth, not half-truths as we've been experiencing over the last 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last few years has taught me that one of the key things that we as Greens do is that we do politics differently. And there has been some wins on council, I must say. So Newcastle Council in the last few years supported my motion unanimously to lobby the state government about container deposit legislation. They supported more recently my motion unanimously to lobby the state government about those atrocious draft wind farm guidelines that basically will kill wind farms in New South Wales. I guess one of the good things about the start of council actually was that we had our first, it's now Newcastle Council policy, that at the beginning of each term of council we have a welcome to country. And that came from my motion in the previous council, and that now will occur at the beginning of each council. I think that was a good achievement. It really highlights to me the experience in the last few years that the importance of the election. And this year it's, the beginning of September this year is when the people of Newcastle vote, and the importance of that vote because it sets up the council for the next 4 years. And that election will decide whether we have a progressive council, whether we can do things for the community on behalf of the community, or whether we have a conservative council. And at the moment we've got a very conservative council. They have aided and abetted the administration to wage a war against the community. But it is something that we can turn around if we get a progressive council. One of the achievements I think for the last few years is that the council unanimously supported my motion to initiate a comprehensive cycling strategy for the city that looks not just at safe connected bike paths, but all the associated infrastructure and policies to make it happen. And then when that came back to council just recently, it was supported unanimously as well. And there's also, we now have more than $15.5 million over the next 10 years of council money, and hopefully matching state or federal money, to implement that. We could get a worse council than we've got now. I truly believe it. But we could also get a lot better council. If we have more Greens on council, that would make a huge difference. And that we could see some of these initiatives that have been successful this term, continue. There have been appalling decisions on development. There have been appalling reallocations of funds away from, disability access, away from, issues of concern to the community, away from community services, to creating monuments, really, that people can feel good about cutting the ribbon on. If we had a progressive council, we can turn that around, and we can make a difference in Newcastle. Thank you.
Candidates once more. Well, after that, I'm just filled with confidence knowing that, Newcastle Council, if you four are elected, can only get better.